again, I would say, to the second round of Dekho Apna Desh series. We had to suspend viewers. The series, we had done 89 webinars since we started on 14 April 2020. But the second round of the pandemic just made it that much more challenging for the entire team. Also, we wanted to stand more with all our doctors, all our frontline workers, and all the people in the country that were managing and were supporting their relatives, friends, and some very unknown people as the pandemic came and struck us. It is not exactly behind us. The numbers have started dwindling. The rate of recovery is much better, but we will still keep saying to everyone that yes, we do want to travel, but we do not want to forget wearing the mask when we're outside. I just took off the mask because I'm talking to all of you right now. I am in Sariska today. I am in the nature. Most of us are going outside these days to work from homestays, work from hill stations, but it's also important to do a digital detox. So I'm in a place where the connectivity is okay, it is there because it was important to talk to everyone, but it's not so much there. So I'd encourage all of you to come to nature parks, to come to open places, go to the rural India, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But do not forget to wear the mask, viewers. It's extremely important that we beat the pandemic and we do not find ourselves in another debilitating phase of COVID-3. So please be careful, watch your health, be safe, and keep watching Dekho Apna Desh. Today, it's a great pleasure for us. We have somebody, not only I would say accomplished, but somebody whose heart and soul is in India, in rural India, and the kind of work that he is doing, especially when I tell you that what all could he have done and then what is he doing, talks about the dedication of the man and the spirit that he has brought to rural India is not only just humbling, but it's also inspiring. So I hope that you're going to enjoy this session. And I'm going to introduce to you today Amitav and Amitav Bhattacharya. And he is from IIT Kharagpur, a Gurukul scholar from the London School of Economics, spent 10 years in software, left the Silicon Valley, and started Banglanatak.com in the year 2000. That was also the Y2K year, viewers, if you remember. So the organization is just 21, the right age for so many things. And the USP of the organization, it is not donation-based, but is global consulting-based. Amitav has developed his own methodology called Art for Life for safeguarding the village level folk forms, the art forms, the handicrafts, and so much more. I have been, of course, personally witness to the workshops run by Amitav when we had the Rural Bengal Festival, and you were, Amitav, the prime driver of that initiative that we had taken up in our Calcutta office. And it's indeed, therefore, a privilege to have you with us. Amitav has been invited by the UNWTO to be the keynote speaker at multiple occasions, including at high-level tourism ministers meeting at ITB Berlin, and developing ethical tourism, developing ICH-based tourism. He was also a speaker at the World Congress on Culture and Tourism at Istanbul in Turkey, in many places, including Bali, Vietnam. And he, more than all these introductions, viewers, as I said in the beginning, it's his heart and soul that he invests into what he does. And he invests in heart and soul in the people around him, the teams around him. I have seen the kind of respect that he commands from the folk artists. I've been with him when the BAUL singers were there in Calcutta. And truly it's the passion. It's the passion that keeps him going. But, and I also must add that it's not just in Bengal that he's spinning his magic in the rural parts of Bengal, but also a lot of initiatives coming in Rajasthan. I'm currently in Rajasthan, and also very soon, I think, in Goa. So Amitav, such a pleasure to have you with us. Welcome. Welcome to Dekho Apna Desh. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and speak a few things that keep you so alive and inspire all of us. Amitav, the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you. As you said, passion, yes, because, I had the privilege, I had the opportunity of seeing the other part of the world also, and other part of life. And from there, the rural life, I thought this is better because the excitement, the challenges, the passion, the warmth involved with the people of rural India, much better. And at least to me, and that inspires me. And if I can inspire others, I'm very happy. But more than that is I get inspired by the passion of the rural people and their life of them. So when I get that, I feel that, let us work together to possibly a little bit put a responsible structure, because we cannot really impart knowledge. Knowledge is theirs, but if we can little bit structure it. And that's why the rural development using culture, because culture and development, because if we look at culture, culture mostly is taken as a non-serious subject in most of the world. Even now, if you look at the Millennium Development Goals, that SDG, here, culture is still just mentioned one part finally at SDG. Whereas, according to the work that we are seeing, our experiences, it can be a prime mover for inclusion, for participative development, for promoting the rural one. And when I'm speaking this globally, if you look at it, then India is a gold mine. And the variations, the depths, the spread that we have, I thought that, this is a wonderful opportunity also to add on. And that's why I'm very happy and honored to speak to you and at the India Tourism platform about rural cultural tourism. Before we start the conversation and go ahead, I will like to show a small video, as the topic is highlighting West Bengal, let me start with a small video. My colleague Shoham will be helping me. So Shoham, please put the video.
Absolutely brilliant. I think, as the video was playing, the one thought that went in my mind was that India works in its cities, but it really lives in its villages. We used to hear so much of it from times immemorial that India lives in its villages. But here, viewers, when I'm using the word live, it's living. I'm not just talking of being living and breathing, but living. And I'm sure you can all understand what I'm saying. And therefore, Amitabh, that brings me to my first question as we take this amazing session along is, there is a lot of talk of rural tourism. There is a lot of talk about moving back also, because there has been an invasion of urbanization and bringing with it its own kind of issues. What really distinguishes rural tourism from what we call as rural cultural tourism?
See, when we talk of rural cultural tourism, my concentration will be on rural ICH-based tourism, intangible cultural heritage, because that's the focus that we will use. Now, if we try to compare between, or what's the difference between these two, rural tourism and rural cultural tourism. Now, in rural tourism, the stress is mostly on homestay, nature, scenic beauty. If we look at rural ICH-based tourism, which is rural cultural tourism, and as I am saying, is basically more of a skill of the artist, the art form. So it's a very interestingly, there may not be any scenic beauty. It's maybe just a village where 100 artists live. But it may be a wonderful experience of listening to the BAUL song with the BAULs, staying with them, or maybe PATACHITRA artist, or maybe Raiveshe artist. So the difference is rural tourism is more scenic place, beautiful nature, and homestay based. Whereas here it is skill based. One may not need to stay at all. 95% of the places may not have enough space for the other visitors to stay. So it is usually a good day trip. If need be, some people can definitely stay, very few, and at the nearby. But let's say people staying at the nearby hotel, 1 hour distance, they can from there, if they can travel, they can spend the day, half a day, 1 hour, whatever they need. If they go for 1-2 hours, they can see a demonstration. If they have 5-6 hours, They can actually go through a complete workshop. They can meet the artist, see the artist lifestyle, whatever way. And so, that's the very important part, that one is a skill-based, another is a scenic beauty-based. Homestay is a stress in rural tourism. Here, enjoy the art and the lifestyle.
So we've seen enough of that in the video, of course, that you played, but is there a video that you would like to play, or should we move on with our conversation?
No, here I will not. Okay. Whenever I will talk about.
Right, let me know when you want to play a video, because I have so many questions for you.
Please.
And I'm of course going to, some of them are there because as we take tourism in India forward, and there is so much talk about carrying capacity. There is also, when we do tourism right now, if I am here in Sariska and we just went into the Sariska sanctuary, we saw beautiful, beautiful animals, flora, fauna. It was just amazing. And I got a feeling the moment we entered the gates that I was entering somebody's home. And I have to be silent, and I have to be really as quiet when I'm trying to take my pictures, because in a sense, I am the guest there. And I think there are so many responsibilities, therefore, that come onto the traveler and to everybody associated with travel, including the host, including the guest. How do you really look at the narrative that is building up around responsible tourism? What really is being responsible? And I ask you that question in the context of, there is something called ecotourism, there is sustainable tourism and responsible. How are the three terms different from each other? And what do we really mean by that?
See, globally, the responsible tourism has one simple definition. Whatever is good for community is good for tourists. So if we try to understand that, for extra tourism, we don't need to do anything which is not good for community. So the simple definition, I repeat, whatever good for tourism, good for community is good for tourism. And this, I thought, this is a wonderful, simple way of defining a responsible tourism. Now here, this is a very important part, because if we look at it, in this culture-based tourism, artist communities are not bystanders. They are the nucleus of that tourism. Let's say in any tourism, if I develop a hotel or whatever, and then hire 4 or 5 local people as a serving boys, I feel I have done my duty. But honestly, they are bystanders of that tourism. Here, artists are in the nucleus of tourism. That's a very important part. Thirdly, this sort of tourism are very niche tourism. So one need not unnecessarily go for mass tourism in this place. And as you rightly pointed out, these are the living villages. So that's a very important part that one needs to understand. Because one day, somebody's daughter may not be well. I may not know that as a visitor. So developing responsible tourism, developing ethical tourism is a part of the responsibility of the tourism developers to because firstly, when tourists come, the villagers might get excited. So everything they may say yes. So we have to also, I'll say, de-excite them and, make them ensure that they go for a sustainable manner. Now, so this is a very important step. Another important part of the responsible tourism is that making tourists aware of what they should expect. Because let's say in most of the villages that we work with, not most, all, there is no air-conditioned place. So obviously, I cannot say to anyone that please go during April and May. Because comfort and safety are two very important factors. So now many people ask that, such villages are beautiful in rains. Why don't you also promote tourism during rains? I said, no, definitely I could have done that. But I personally won't like my mother or my daughter or friend's daughter to go during and have an insect bite. Now, who is going to protect that? Now, please don't think that, one must not think that villagers will be happy if they don't get it, but somebody else. Villagers will be more than, I'll say, troubled if it causes any problem to the guests. So that's why it is important for responsible tourism also to develop the timing. So what we do, September, October to March, for the villages that we develop for the cultural tourism. So cultural tourism and responsible tourism, I will restrict to the area of answer all your questions related to ICH-based tourism, because that's the subject that I have worked hands-on for last 20 years. So, I feel that, that is a good way of looking at responsible tourism. Coming to sustainable tourism, if 2004, these villages were marginalized, nobody used to go, people used to call it, nothing. Nobody knew about it. Very unhygienic. Today, so many people are staying overnight. So definitely things have improved. So that means passing the leadership. So it's exactly like how government develops the beautiful roads: build, operate, transfer. And that building, I think, not building by the urban eyes, building here, helping the villagers to be part of the building, and then helping them to operate, and then let them run it. You be there as a guide. I think that's how we have developed. And I'm very happy that, these models have succeeded in its own way. And from zero, even now during pandemic, they got 1 lakh visitors. I'm so excited to hear that from the villages. I think that's very important, that community or the artist community, the target community must be benefited. And they're part of it. They are the part and parcel of this tourism. They must own it. I think as developer, our responsibility is to ensure that. Because when we speak about heritage, I always ask every time to all the international community, including the UN, whose heritage we are talking of. If it's people's heritage, then people must own it. It cannot be an academic interest heritage. It cannot be a UN accreditation heritage. So it should be people's ownership, people's aspiration. Then it sustains.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, talking and such a beautiful concept you mentioned about living villages. In India, viewers, that is the beauty of our lives, that while a lot of us have started moving to cities for jobs and primarily, I think, jobs, and I can't actually find a second reason, but our hearts and souls, for so many of us who've actually started living in cities, still the fun, the love and the affection of doing that annual trip back to our villages has a very different kind of a feel and a nostalgia. And sometimes when you don't have your own village also to go back to, but going back with cousins or families or friends is an entirely different experience. And the kind of the earthiness and that beauty of that earthiness is entirely else. So if any of you have not had a chance to visit any Indian village, do that. And the best part about Indian villages, I think, is that people are so warm, they are so welcoming, and the simplicity is so charming in its own way. And while today we are focusing on Bengal, but let me tell you, viewers, that every Indian village has so many unique things. Everyone has their own embroidery styles, everybody has their singing styles, the mothers and the grandmothers putting children to sleep. The lullabies of each of those villages, they are just so amazing. The food forms and just the gossip, the banter, the way the marriages happen. In fact, all our traditions that we are today carrying on in our urban areas also have all come from the villages. And aren't we so proud of all that? And it's actually a great opportunity for us to showcase it to the world. We know the world loves it. There is no question on that account. In fact, Incredible India moved to 2.0 in 2017 as a brand because the idea was that it's not just about structures, but it's a lot about the intangible part of our ancient and becoming modern culture, which is just so amazing. So on that point, Amitav, your experience and how do you look at experiential tourism growing in India? And what all should we be doing to take the intangible culture forward?
And now, this is a very important part, experiential tourism, because this has become a jargon, and because there is a difference between, let's say, a CHAU program happening, I'm in a city and I'm seeing it. That's an observing. But when I'm visiting a CHAU dance village, I want to actually know how they spend time, how they practice. So let me show a quick video on that.
কানের পাশা হব গো রঙিলা দাঁড়িয়া মাছের বিয়ে দিতে যাব গো রঙিলা
So this small video, basically, we try to share about the experiential tools. Should I also tell about how we develop this?
Yeah, I was very keen to understand also, because there are a lot of people who are interested in knowing how to actually enable it. How should the structures really be created and work on that?
Okay. Now, here I will talk about, as she already mentioned, about Art for Life. Let me first tell you that, Art for Life is basically a methodology that we developed over time. Initially, 2004, when we first interacted with the rural people, and then when we took the 3,200 marginalized communities in Bengal across 6 districts. Initial name that we have given is Art for Livelihood. And then later on, after working for so many years, we understood, almost for after 8 years, we understood that, it is more than livelihood, it is life. And that's how we have changed. And also another thing I learned over time in this 21 years, maybe a little before, is that livelihood, before I started spending so much of time in the rural belt, to me, it was more of economic empowerment. But later on, I realized livelihood means engagement. And of course, economic empowerment. I think engagement is the crux. So that's how, in our own way, we have redefined the Art for Life. And so let me first show you a small video, what we have done in Art for Life in Bengal, starting 2005, which in 2013, Government of West Bengal MSME department came in, took up the initiative of developing the Rural Craft Hub, and along with UNESCO. And we as UNESCO grassroots partner, although we started in 2005, but the methodology got adopted by UNESCO to apply across India. So UNESCO signed a partnership with Department of MSME. And so we started first with 3,000 people. Seeing the result, then they did it with, then they rolled out for 12,000 more people. And also now, Government of West Bengal has planned to do it with 50,000 people. I think that's the thing, that it is really changing things at the grassroots. Why? Because 3 things are involved primarily: building capacity, linking them directly to the market. Directly is a very important word. And thirdly, developing a lot of exchange collaboration possibilities. International artists, international communities spending time in the villages, and really improves the pride, recognition, and it helps the artist to understand that it is giving me both economic improvement and also it brings pride. And that's why PATACHITRA village, where there were 8 artists in PINGLA in 2004, now there are 300 plus artists. So artist communities need that push, that pride. And another very interesting, you will be seeing in the video, that all the development parameters, which were very poor before, now it's absolutely perfect. Nobody needs to do any additional, campaign. They send their children to school. All the people that we worked with initially are illiterates, but now they know even digital. So you know what improvement, that pride brings it back. Everybody has their clean stay, villages are clean, because these are the things. Annual village festivals are planted. It brings a lot of people go time and again. And so this is how. Let's see a quick video of Art for Life and then I come.
High potential rural artist communities have not developed the business tools to engage markets, resulting in slow death of their unique art forms. Banglanatak.com's Art for Life program, proven in West Bengal, transforms artist communities into thriving micro-enterprises, impacting artist, art form and district.
9 years after inception of Art for Life, in 2013, the Department of MSME, Government of West Bengal, adopted Art for Life and partnered with UNESCO to develop 10 rural craft hubs benefiting 3,000 rural traditional handicraft artists across 10 districts of West Bengal. The success of the project led to expansion of the initiative to rural craft and cultural hubs involving an additional 12,000 beneficiaries across 15 districts of West Bengal.
26 art form transformations have had 100% success, doubling artists, primarily impacting and empowering women, increasing income 2.5 times, and reducing migrations. Low-income art forms shrunk from 38% to 15%, while high-income grew from nothing to 26%. More than 90% of artists now have a bank account. More than half have a new or renovated house. 77% of these with sanitation and 100% electrified. Almost every artist is formally trained on the art form. 30% are digitally aware, and 38% of the next generation are now proud of and involved in the art form. The village is now a hub for international workshops and collaborations, and 6 art forms have geographical indication status. Tourism is now an integral part of the program. West Bengal will cross 1 lakh artists. Goa will establish a responsible tourism model. Rajasthan will expand tourism through rural hubs.
Now, this is how we have done that, village development, then come tourism. But when Rajasthan Government Tourism Department, when we started working, the first thing that I did with my team, we went and we used the lockdown time. We actually went to the desert and we stayed for 7 months. Now, staying at desert with artist places for 7 months, we are now close relatives. We are no more consultants, this, that. No, it is a different relationship that we are in. So when somebody is there, somebody is thinking, so doing a work study to develop an ICH-based tourism, understanding their priorities. And it may not be same in West Bengal and Rajasthan and Bihar. No, India is a diverse country. So understanding them, food habit is completely different. Middle of the desert, very far remote places, when we have stayed there, bajra ka roti is very important for them. And so, and please not to expect many more things there. Whereas if we come to the better places, CHAU, then there are many things which are possible. So these are the things. Another very important part in ICH-based tourism is not to touch rituals, because ritual is a private practice of the community. Now, without understanding, just because they are in nice costume and they do some songs, we enter with the visitors, and then we may not know exactly the background and others, and it may go beyond control. I'll give you an example. Kenyan Honorable Tourism Minister once at ITV shared as a co-panelist a fantastic example. In a funeral for a community, they used to be superbly dressed and then in a procession with the funeral. Now, but they used to bring out those hidden dresses only on that day. Now, their local tour operators thought this is an opportunity, and they invited international people. When it became big, everybody, imagine we are walking towards a funeral and people are taking our photographs. So people just got mad. There was law and order issue. Kenya government had to close it. So my suggestion to people who are trying ICH-based tourism, I think it's important for us not to touch a ritual-based community private practices. We have never touched that. We even did all our village festivals are just celebrating their own traditional art and culture. We have not attached with any religious rituals, no, because I think that should be avoided. So.
Absolutely. So important to respect the local culture. I would say not only rituals, actually everything. You are the visitor there, so you need to just watch and blend and not interfere with the lifestyle or the thoughts or the way of doing things, because that itself would cause cultural pollution, and it would lead to, abandonment, so to say, of the uniqueness, which is what we all want to preserve in each of our local areas in the hinterland, which is so unique, and it has passed down generations, centuries. And therefore, it's extremely important on all of us, part that when we visit, we don't carry the noise along with us, but actually blend with the locals. In fact, that brings me to another very critical point. But before that, I want to share another very interesting vignette and a fact that in fact came out of Banglanatak.com. When you did the rural villages, we did a festival for a few weeks in Bengal in the late December, early January. And it gave us so much happiness that one of the artists in the Pingla village, his one PATACHITRA got sold for 2 lakh of rupees. It is so heartening, so heartening. And while money cannot always define the happiness, but in a way it defines happiness here, because it tells you the potential that exists in the art forms and how much people around the world are ready to value that. And in fact, that found mention in the Honorable Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat on 31st of January. And I think, Amitabh, for you, for your team, for all of us in the Ministry of Tourism, it was a matter of great pride. But all the work behind was of the Patachitra artist. So we would like to salute him from today's session, that fantastic work, and keep doing the great work that all the artists around our country are doing. But yes, so these are those beautiful stories that are encouraging people to visit rural India. How to make sure, but that not everybody lands up at the same time in all these villages. If we see viewers, a lot of our hill stations suffer from the vagaries of crowds, the water levels depleting, the car honking that just happens typically in every hill station, Shimla, Mussoorie, Darjeeling, all of them are suffering from over tourism. So while there is a need to provide everybody to go out, and also for the locals, it adds to their economy. But the beauty for which you set out is itself getting eroded. What do you think, Amitabh, should the government, should the people themselves, and everybody, each of us doing to ensure that we don't lose what we really have?
See, safeguarding from, or I'll say, hedging the risk to develop a safeguarded tourism is a better way of putting it. Recently, I was invited by Uzbek organizations, tourism organizations. I was traveling to Malda, and from there I entered in a Zoom call. And there they asked me that, you know, they have beautiful culture, including music and art forms, the handicraft forms. But their festival is a rock festival, because they don't know how to include the music, the rural music in a festival, whether people will take it or not. So their first thing I said, see, if your peak season already is crowded, please don't add another festival. And secondly, when the graph is going up or other time, if weather permits and everything permits, then plant a festival that time. So spread the events. And second important point is that including the local people is a must. It's not an option, it's a must. And because that also provides an opportunity for the group to perform with the international group, which brings pride to the area. Now that's another must. But the question is how to mix this. Now here my suggestion was that, you know, it's very important to understand the audience. Audience may be local, maybe visitors, everybody. But audience always needs quality part. So if something may not be good, you are aware that, or may not be internationally presentable, reduce the time. 10-15 minutes of the local participation, then 40 minutes of international, nothing wrong. Do a collaboration, non-festival time, prepare them. So invest in people is also a very important part. And another safeguarding part from the over-tourism point of view, let's say you talked about Darjeeling. See, Darjeeling actually is a very interesting case study. I have done a small survey of 843 people in 2015. And I asked the 843 people who came back from Darjeeling, Kalimpong, have you seen the rural culture of Darjeeling or the culture of Darjeeling? The answer was no. All 843 people said no. They saw Everest, this, that. So nature tourism, no problem. But actually there are 16 communities with fantastic art and culture. Their villages are wonderful. And staying with them is a superb. So then if we can develop that tourism, so then actually Darjeeling tourism will never be an over-tourism if we spread that in the villages. So spreading that, so here 2016 onwards, in that part of the rural craft and cultural project, what we have done, we have documented this, that, we have trained the community. But now we plan to select, now we have identified 10 such villages where the, I'll say the concentration of the artist communities, the space where there is a parking possibility, you know, these are very important parts. So this is how we are going to address an over-tourism, other risk, because the risk factor, another is that, you know, expectation that somebody who is going to the village and deciding to stay must understand that, you know, you may not get chicken tikka kebab in the evening. Now, asking for a chicken tikka kebab is not a crime. But the point is, you may not get that. Don't get upset. You may not get the ice which you are looking for. So these are very important practical factors. So letting the guests know what to expect, what not to expect. And another very important part is that tourism also increases the greed of the people, of the artists. So, and constant follow-up and helping them to overcome that. They are smart, they overcome. CHARIDA, the mask makers village, is a very bright and living and current example. After lockdown, in the 4 months, per day sale reached 2.5 lakhs. So imagine the business they have done, which they have done never. This CHARIDA, the mask makers village in Purulia, had no visitor till 2014-15. And now, average sale has reached 2.5 lakhs. So recently what they do to make it shortcut to success, So they are giving the mold very quickly, which will not last or which may not last for more time. Secondly, Raghurajpur is a good example in Odisha. Now, because of the beautiful tradition, Patachitra there, Patachitra, is that, people used to make it, for which Raghurajpur got the GI, got the name. But now too many people, too many visitors, it's only hardly a distance from the beautiful sea. So many people come, they try to do any painting. They forgot they are Patachitra artists. They have become artists. So I get a Chandigarh painting from there. Now, this is how they dilute. So customers also need to understand the audience. So educating tourism also reduces the risk. And this is very important, that setting expectation right. And that's how I will go for it. And here, you mentioned about the Prime Minister's thing. And I think that is really a privilege for us also that, we get a mention. But I must mention here, the two things are a little different. One is Village Mela. We have been doing Village Mela since 2010. And what we did for India Tourism, it's a beautiful campaign where it's a milieu, it's a togetherness, almost similar, but both may be a little different because one must be calendarized. Village Mela must be calendarized because they tell their relatives, please come during that date. This is very important. And the tourism campaigns are actually for attracting local tourists and other people. That also need to be calendarized. So these two are very interesting thing, and we have done both. And we thank India Tourism for partnering us on that. And it was lovely. And of course, I repeat that it's an honor for Prime Minister to mention about this in his country.
So many things, coming out of what you mentioned. The need to make sure that the artists themselves also not get corrupted in this process. And the very things, the vices that you want to move away from, we wouldn't want our, brothers and sisters in rural India to suffer from those very vices, which we want to go away from in so many ways. And here in this case, in fact, it's not only about the individual, it's about the whole heritage getting corrupted. And I think that's a very, very valid and a very critical concern as we are opening our doors literally to visitors to come in, and how to really plan therefore responsibly, both from the perspective of the local people who are already there in the village, offering certain art forms for people to come and see and appreciate, and also from the point of view of the visitors, that how you should be entering that ecosystem and not disturbing it beyond a point. Some disturbance is naturally going to be there the moment you have outsiders, but making sure that that disturbance is only a beautiful ripple that gets back and the pond is still again, and doesn't become a kind of a volcanic eruption where we land up with very negative things that we would not want ourselves saddled with. But there, and also your point on calendarizing Melas, I think very crucial, because if we truly believe, and we do, that India lives in its villages, and it's important to preserve the art forms and the heritage and the folklores. It is important for us, therefore, to have a regular calendar of events which people know about. They can plan their visits. Also, it brings me to another question, therefore, to you, is that yes, no chicken tikka necessarily, and we need to educate. And also it's important to experience the local foods. If I'm sitting today in Rajasthan, then the gatta that I got here last night for dinner, I probably can't get it anywhere else. And similarly, if I go to Bengal, the kind of mache jhol I will get over there is perhaps I wouldn't get elsewhere, or the mocha chops, and so all the lovely food that one gets in Bengal. So important, therefore, to also try and taste the local flavors. But at the same time, Amitabh, my question is that as we are planning to get more and more people to travel into more and more villages in India, one, so that there is a thin spread and there is no clustering in one area, but there is a basic expectation that everybody has of a clean place to stay. And we would want people to spend some time with our people over there and truly experience. How do you think we should be capacity building? We have been doing some workshops for homestay owners, but what more do we need to do as government, as society, as civil society organizations to capacity build the locals over there, to bring them to a certain path? Because I'm going to link that, and you may want to do it also, that fostering of the economic growth through tourism and fostering employment, meaningful employment, is a big takeaway for tourism, and for experiential tourism even more so, because you are doing what you've been literally born into and making some money out of it. What could be more pleasurable? But how to do it in a slightly more professional manner so that you really get value for your money and you don't erode your art form in the process. Those are some thoughts that I would want you to dwell on with me.
Thank you. Very important aspects that you are touching. Firstly, let me just finish off my last one, which where I said that CHARIDA, that problem. Now, just seeing the problem, noticing the problem won't do. So immediately we have to go back during the Corona 2 lockdown, a partial lockdown period, go back, sit with them, make them understand, and take corrective action so that this time onwards they are backtrack. So constantly engaging with the community, helping them to rectify their mistakes or part of their mistakes, if any, is a way forward. So this is important. Number two is that you spoke about the training. See, most of the tourism training are always starting and unfortunately ending with tour operators training. Including ICH practitioners is probably missing in the tourism angle. And this is very important that, you know, these are important aspects of that tourism, because here tourism people, the artistic communities, the local communities, they are not bystanders. They are nucleus of the tourism, as I mentioned. So building capacity of them. Now, what sort of capacity building is possible? Digital. Because when I say PINGLA is good, that has a value. But when PINGLA says we are here, and you know, and when they do different educational thing and other things and promoting themselves, that speaks a volume. So helping them digitally, training them digitally, ensuring they have Wi-Fi. Regarding the clean stay, let me share a small thing. The Chief of Navy in the Eastern Zone, once I requested him and his wife to go to PINGLA. After going there, I thought it's a day trip. They called me 2 days back, 2 days later, and said we stayed 2 nights there. I couldn't believe it. And I said, sir, is it fine? And he said, absolutely normal, because all of them have clean stay, hot Indian cooked food, absolute decent, fantastic Western toilet, clean linens. What else do we need? And we have enough space in the village to roam around, spend time, bicycling, you know, so Wi-Fi. So all these in these villages are ensured. So that becomes the basics. I mean, that's a period, and that's basically basics. But this training part, another very important, I will say here, I mean, not, more than training, is that what we have done also, we, as part of the project, and also before that, we requested the government to develop some folk centers. Because there, we developed some community museums. And that attract a lot of people. So if you may permit, can I just show 1 minute of that video? Because that will be lovely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So can you quickly show that video, please? That, yeah. has Shoham, stop that video, please. Yeah. Now, every center, I just wanted to show a glimpse. So, every center has 2-3 rooms for the guests to stay. Now, that is actually managed by the community. People need to pay 1,200 rupees only, and food comes from the village itself. And the money goes back to the clusters. They run it. They have sweeper. They have manager. So entire thing is actually managed by them. So this is a very, very important part. Another very important part that we miss out mostly in tourism is the right branding, this GI of the villages. The UNESCO tags, CHAU, BAUL, are actually UNESCO tags in Bengal. These are part of the heritage of the UNESCO recognition. One got in 2008, another in 11. Look at Rajasthan. When we see the Rajasthan promotion, have we really seen that 2010 Kalbelia got that UNESCO recognition? Probably we are missing out on that. So adding that UNESCO or GI, Pokhran is actually a GI. So if we can add these parts, these are very important things that adding GI and adding in promotion also will be helpful. And in the training part, in the capacity building part, digital, including these people in this thing, are very important because basic things more or less are done. And that's and also investment in folk centers in a village where there are a cluster of people.
Absolutely beautiful. And, you know, one wouldn't have realized, but Amitabh, we're already at 12 noon.
Yes.
And, you know, that I think is the beauty of tourism. And that's the beauty of tourism in India. And when you're talking of rural tourism, even more so, because there is so much to unravel in our beautiful land. So we encourage everybody that as soon as the pandemic is just that little more behind us, we've all started traveling. I'm traveling too, but I said, keep wearing your masks when you travel, but do travel with safety. Go and visit the beautiful parts of our country and encourage people by staying with them, by looking at how they live, how they eat, how they sing, how they dance, how they do their festivals. It is so amazing and so very heartwarming, I should say. And post-COVID, when so many of us have been locked home, not able to move out, not able to really meet friends and families, a lot of that human touch has gone away. Too much use of technology, which is beautiful because right now I am where I am, Amitabh is where he is, the teams are where they are, and yet we are able to communicate. So yes, technology has its roles to play, but nothing like the actual human warmth of being with people. So viewers, do start traveling, and then when you feel safe about it, get your vaccinations done and be responsible. So you want to say something, Amitav?
No, I mean, I'm absolutely fine. I mean, I thank India Tourism and you personally because for hosting this for 1 hour from your busy schedule, you have taken this up. And it's really because, you know, maybe there are more questions or anything for anyone. Please feel free, email us, call us, email us, check the videos, each and everything is there. And, you know, and one can really, but I join her in inviting you to visit in rural India. And as right now we have highlighted West Bengal, come to rural West Bengal, check out the villages, see the art forms, artists, and enjoy the living heritage of the world with the best of people in India, that is the rural people of India. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Amitav, and thank you, NEGD. You've been a great partner. We take our webinar to more than 50 countries around the world. So it's really a beautiful session. We learn a lot from all our presenters. We learn from the questions that viewers post. So it's a journey that we do together. So thank you, viewers, for joining in. But now, what are we bringing for you next week? We've done the cars, we've done the Jeeps, we've done the motorcycles, we've done the cycle. But we're going to do something more on wheels on stories on wheels. Can you possibly think what other wheels are left? Well, the rickshaw. The rickshaw stories are what is being brought to you next week. So stay tuned in, keep watching Dekho Apna Desh. We shall try to bring you very special, very different stories. And these stories are about the people of India. So let's keep tuning in for the amazing, beautiful people of our incredible India. Thank you, viewers, for joining in. Namaste. Keep safe, keep healthy. Thank you, Amitav. Thank you, viewers. Bye.